Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about the good morning. This is one of my favorite squat accessories. I've said this for years. I've programmed it for many years for clients. And again, there's a lot of phenomenal lifters and coaches who have repeatedly pointed out the merits of this exercise. And yes, I am very well aware that there are champions and world record holders who don't do this exercise. But, if we use that as our standard for not including an exercise, and we would never do anything, right? We'd never do anything because oftentimes the accessory and assistance work between different world record holders sometimes has no overlap. Sometimes there's no overlap at all. But as far as a movement goes, this is, again, probably my single favorite squat accessory for building a really big max squat. And it simply has to do with the fact that it builds the muscles that we need for the squat. Literally the only thing that doesn't get effectively built with the good morning are the quads, right? They're the quads. And depending upon the lifter, you may need more or less quad for your squat. And for a lot of people, there are easy to do quad accessories, right? Even people who have limited equipment in a gym, let's say they don't even have leg machines. Well, if quads are an issue, just do some single leg exercises. That's one of the fastest way to bring your quads up. Split squats, lunges, things like that. They're easy on recovery. They get the job done. Those will do what you need. But I'll go so far as to say a lot of lifters can build a really big squat while doing, a minimal amount of squatting, very little quad work, and just getting really, really good at good mornings, depending upon the structure of the lifter. Now, that being said, let's look at what's biomechanically going on with the good morning. We're loading the posterior chain and training a hip hinge. And notice that the hip hinge on this teaches you how to power squat. Okay? So even when we don't look at all the hypertrophy end, look at the movement as you watch me do these. Notice that you push back. You have a vertical shank, and it teaches you to break back and push back with the hips. Then you, of course, use back extension and hip extension to raise the weight back up. Well, what do you do on a heavy power squat? Well, you use back extension and hip extension to move the weight once you are out of the hole, right? Your quads tend to help you get started, and other muscles involved in the lower body. And then once the weight is moving, if you have strong enough of hip extension and the ability to move your back up, you can almost always lock a squat. You can almost always lock it. So watch that for a moment, and it teaches you how to do that. So if you can use that pattern there to help you perform the eccentric, to push the hips back, what happens? It helps you get a vertical shank. Well, and if you're using a more vertical shank, and particularly with a wider stance, what do we get? Allows us to use a lot more glute and adductor to get that weight moving out of the bottom on the squat. Okay? Changes our whole position of our bar midfoot, allows us to get more muscle involved. So the good morning literally translates into a movement pattern to teach you to power squat. Now, does that mean it's going to carry over to an Olympic squat on the movement? I'm going to say no. It's not, but you'll still get stronger at Olympic squatting from it because of all the muscles involved, the hypertrophy end. But from the movement pattern end, that's what's happening. And again, most power squats, the final 2/3 of the way up, they really are a good morning, right? You just have to get that back moving upwards, because you usually have forward lean. We're keeping the bar midfoot, pushing the hips way back, and then we lever it up. And I mean, that's how many world record squats are done. And what people need to keep in mind there, yes, there are exceptions, but they are the exception. They're in the minority. They're in the minority. So this translates into a big squat. It's like Louis Simmons always said. He goes, if you get your good morning as strong as a squat number that you want, like let's say you decide you want a 600-pound squat. It's like you get a good morning up to 600 pounds, you will never miss that squat. Why? Because once you get the weight started, whatever you can good morning, you can always lock out. You just have to get that weight started. But then we come over to that movement pattern. We can get a lot more of the muscles involved in getting the weight started that are involved in the good morning. So then from a hypertrophy perspective, what are we seeing here? It's just a slight inverse from what we see on the squat. The squat tends to build in order adductors, glutes, quads. Right? That's what it builds. Quads are the third muscle that gets hypertrophy. When you look at studies, there's only been like one major study that really compared all the muscles on a squat. And they found that that was the order of hypertrophy in terms of percentage increase. Now, people say, well, power squatting. No, that was with Olympic high bar type squats. That was doing full squats. So we come over to a power squat, that's going to shift even more so. And I'm not saying quads don't matter, just saying that is what a squat utilizes in order of priority. It's one reason, we do say that people, unless they're really, really built to squat, the squat itself is probably not the best quad exercise. And for a lot of people, it's not. Certain structures, it can be phenomenal. Again, it comes down to biomechanics of the lifter. But then you look at the good morning, what does it build? The whole posterior chain plus the adductors. The glutes, hamstrings. Well, those hamstrings also allow us to power squat better. It builds the glutes, builds the erectors, builds the back, builds all that support musculature up top. That if you get strong enough, you're not going to have your chest cave. And that's the idea. People are like, oh, doing the too many good mornings will make your chest cave. No, it'll prevent it from caving. Every time I quit doing good mornings, when you guys see me miss a squat on camera, what happens? My chest caves. And I can't lever my way through it. You build the musculature of a good morning, and you get strong at good mornings, you will be able to lever your way through that. You can brute strength your way through that squat if it grooves a little wrong and you have any forward shift. You just muscle through it and you'll still lock it. Right? And then, of course, we get over to the fact that it's a phenomenal deadlift accessory too. All the same primary movers. Okay? This exercise brings a lot to the table, and that's a whole lot I could say about it being the Swiss Army knife of posterior chain movements, and I've said that before, but that's a much more nuanced topic. But in terms of just overall efficiency, one of the best squat builders you can possibly do. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.